So thanks very much once again for joining us in session 4 of the Next Generation series. It's great to have you guys on board. It's great to have our panel, our esteemed panel on board. Hopefully you're going to have, it's going to be an interesting panel full of, I'm going to say the word interesting a lot because it is really interesting. So it's going to be interesting, it's going to be insightful, and it's going to be fun. So, blockchain, we hear about it, everyone's talking about it, especially over the last year or two. It's honestly, it's been around for a really long time in different forms. I think it's been around since like the mid late 80s, but it only became really popular thanks to Bitcoin. We were just talking earlier about Bitcoin being the OGs of not just cryptocurrency but of the blockchain space in general. But yeah, there's so many other aspects of blockchain technology, and that is why we have two of the very best. Yep, not one but two of the very best. And yeah, we got McNicholas and Jesse Garside. So we're going to quickly look at Mark. Mark entered the cryptocurrency space as an investor, okay, way back in 2015, and he was so drawn to the technology that he was like, okay, you know what, this is really cool stuff, and I can really see this evolving, beyond just what it is today. So he got more involved in it, and right now he's working as an analyst, as a coach, he's a trader, obviously, as an analyst, coach, consultant, trainer, and he's also block one at BTA protocol, right? And then we have, so thanks very much, Mark, for joining us today. It's awesome to have you, man.
You're quite all right. Great to be here.
Great. And then we have Jesse. Jesse Jesse comes to us from, well, he's based in Germany, but he's Canadian. And I love all Canadians, man. They're cool.
Oh, thank you.
And, hey, I love you too, Mark. But yeah, you should.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So Jesse's a blockchain consultant, crypto coach, and a block one he's a block one at BTA protocol as well. And prior to entering the space, I understand you also did a couple of marketing gigs. Is that right?
I did, yeah. I've kind of self-taught myself online marketing as well, but I did marketing like the cold marketing. So I've been in the down and dirty as well, yeah.
Nice, right? Down and dirty, man. Down in the trenches. I like it. That's gonna.
Right, exactly.
Even though I studied marketing, a lot of the stuff, like I'd say about 80 to 90% of the stuff that we're doing right now, it's all we've all been self-taught. I think it's all experimentation and stuff. Especially if you get to, yeah, we're worldly wise, whatever you want to call it. Just all school of hard knocks of marketing. Yeah, and so for the past 2 years, Jesse's primarily been focused on learning everything about blockchain. So yeah, you are self-taught in that way again. And he's learning about blockchain technology, including Web 3.0, and how to trade and invest in currencies. So once again, guys, thanks for making it here. We're really glad to have you on this panel. And we're gonna, I know this is gonna be jam-packed full of interesting insights and lots of fun. So we're gonna go straight to it. So first, I mean, I know a lot of us know in principle what blockchain is and all that, but let's break it down for the absolute newbies in as brief a manner as possible. What is blockchain? And since Jesse, you're on the extreme left, I'm assuming everyone can see Jesse on the extreme left, so we start with Jesse first. That way Mark won't have to unmute.
All right, so well, obviously it's referred to Bitcoin and blockchain, Bitcoin as the digital gold, right? We are in the digital era. My favorite reference to it is, it's kind of like when Blockbuster was battling Netflix, right?
Right.
It was a failing battle, and it's just people are afraid of change, more or less. It's not so much being afraid of change, but the difficulty to understand the change. And that's what we're here for, right? That's why we're learning this. That's why we're doing these types of meetings, is to help everybody. That's the main goal. So Bitcoin itself is it's a distributed decentralized ledger that everybody. So it's a digital ledger that everybody has the ability to view. So think of it as a paper, like a paper ledger. Each page in that ledger is a block, essentially, in the blockchain. And every new page that's created or written on, every new block, has a summary of the previous page that is cryptographically secured. So to be able to manipulate the Bitcoin network, you would have to change the previous blocks, which is it's almost impossible. So it's almost impossible right now. It's going to take many years of development of quantum computing to be able to secure enough calculations to actually be able to crack the. So it's called the SHA-256 algorithm, cryptograph. So that's actually what is used to create these strings. It's taking each transaction and it's putting it into a secure cryptograph string that only your key has the ability to unlock. I'm trying to make it sound simple. I'm so sorry. I know I kind of go on like this.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's fine. That's cool. I mean, that's why we got.
It's internet money. It's internet money.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's digital money, internet money. Mark, your go.
Well, I think Jesse kind of covered it, really. You can't really elaborate too much on that without keeping it simple. Yeah, it was blockchain was first invented as a concept in 1991 by a French guy whose name eludes me at the moment. But yeah, it was created as a digital ledger, first and foremost. It wasn't until 2009 with Satoshi Nakamoto where it was developed into what it is today and what we know it as, which is Bitcoin, and that's where it became kind of mainstream and picked up from. From there, we've kind of moved on to where we are now with things like smart contracts being kind of the next step in the evolution, I suppose. Decentralized finance, the NFTs, the things that you've got out there now.
It was essentially designed to eliminate the middleman.
Right.
Yeah, decentralization.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is okay, so let's get down to the meat and potatoes now. So what is obviously blockchain as a technology has different impact levels, right? So it might probably, depending on the level of adoption, it might mean way more to a developing country as opposed to a country that is already got strong financial systems and infrastructure in place. What is your take on that, Mark?
Yeah, it's something that we've seen historically. Interestingly enough, I was introduced to blockchain and Bitcoin as a concept by a Polish guy who I worked with, who explained to me that a lot of people in Poland were using cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and things like that as their own banking system because it was more stable than the fiat currency in the country. Fast forward a few years to where we are now, and we've seen it from a lot of countries. I'm getting some feedback there. Yes, in 2017, I think it was, Zimbabwe had the collapse of their economy. They took up Bitcoin as their primary currency, and we're seeing that kind of trend, as you say, in developing countries that don't have a stronger financial system or don't believe that they have a strong financial system. We're seeing that that move now towards blockchain, and that's where
it's allowing people. It's like banking the unbanked, essentially, giving
Absolutely.
them freedom, giving people the freedom to take part in the world financial system, where in every part of the world.
There's currently developments with a particular cryptocurrency in Africa where they're in kind of talks, or they're in the process of trying to make that effectively. They're referring to it as Africa's gold.
Okay, actually, okay. So I have a question there, specifically when you referred to Zimbabwe. Again, I'm not very aware of what happened there. I mean, I know to a certain extent that they did take on Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. But what kind of implication does that have on like the daily, your average guy, your average Joe? Because I don't know what the level of adoption was. Obviously, they have to have some kind of financial infrastructure in place for people to be able to do that. Because again, to be able to put money into a wallet, it has to be done digitally, et cetera, et cetera. So how did a country like Zimbabwe tackle that? And again, I mean that because they're not really the most developed country in the world.
You know what? That's not something that I ever really looked into, to be honest, Jesse.
For Zimbabwe,
Hmm.
I
I
know.
was aware it was happening, but
So one of the biggest reasons that I think that adoption happened was because I'm not sure how the adoption progressed, but I know it started through when they were trying to send money. They would actually have to buy cell phone minutes, and then they would have to send those cell phone minutes as pretty much a payment for just goods and services, or sending a certain amount of money that you've made back to your family or something like that. And the access is still available through cell phones, right? So
Yeah.
it's a faster and more secure way to do it. They were doing it via cell phone minutes previous to cryptocurrency.
That is very interesting, actually. Huh. Okay, so there's multiple ways you can actually make the deposits and have those transactions, at least initially.
Yeah. So
Get the money into the wallet.
when you run a node on your computer, you have access to the full blockchain. But say when you're accessing if you're going to send a payment or whatever via the blockchain, you're not actually accessing, if you're on your phone, you're not accessing the entire network. You're accessing the full node through like a side node on your phone. So you're not actually, your phone isn't reading the entire blockchain. It has the ability to access a piece of that blockchain, right? There's a lot of complicated theory behind it. So it's kind of like to use Bitcoin and you don't need to fully understand the operations behind it. Just like you can drive a car, but you don't necessarily know how to build a car, right? It's kind of the same theory in that. Like you know how to operate a cell phone, but there's no way I could build a cell phone. Well, I might be able to, but that's that's another story.
Okay, interesting.
But I think that's how I know Microsoft is trying to push it to the point where like not a lot of people know how Java works, but Java runs the internet essentially. They want it to be the background that is running the networks, but you don't necessarily even know it's there.
I get what you're saying. So yeah, it's like doctors, right? They have all these sophisticated equipment. They don't essentially build the equipment, but they know how to operate it. So yeah,
That's it.
awesome.
There are a lot of smart people behind these technologies, and they are growing. There's a lot of different types of blockchains, not like just your like Bitcoin isn't blockchain. It is it's a product of a blockchain.
Right. So actually, that was going to be my next question. So a lot of people, because I know for a fact a lot of people confuse this because actually a couple of days ago I was talking to a friend of mine back home, and I just said, hey, if you're interested in the blockchain, we have this thing going. He said, oh, I don't know, I'm not interested in investing. I said, hold on a second. Blockchain is not just about investing, because in a lot of people's minds, blockchain is because Bitcoin is synonymous with blockchain, so they think, oh, it's about investing in cryptocurrency and all that. Whereas the truth of the matter is it involves way more, in terms of like smart contracts, the infrastructure, developing an infrastructure in so many ways. So what are just for the novices here, the newbies, including myself, what are the non-crypto uses of blockchain that you can?
Non-crypto, there's lots. Provenance is a big one. So the ability
storage of records, things like that, like you say, smart contracts, which effectively programs that release funds upon certain actions being taken is kind of the simplest way to describe smart contracts. But as you say, the blockchain itself is the kind of the network, I suppose, or you could think of it as the factory.
Real-time auditing.
Yeah. Auditing, whereas Bitcoin and the things that come from it
Sorry, so can you expand a bit on auditing? Either one of you guys, Jesse, Mark?
So yeah, go ahead.
No, go on, Jesse.
So what I mean by real-time auditing is companies pay like just banks in general or large and small businesses pay a significant amount of money to have their systems audited through using blockchain technology. That it alleviates that issue of having to once again have that middleman and spend all this extra time and effort, where when you have access to the blockchains, whatever blockchain system they're using, you have direct access to every transaction, to everything, and you can build AI systems that directly audit those systems instantly, right? So it's going to save so much money for so many businesses, and it's removing the trust factor. So it's creating a trustless environment in almost everything that we do.
Okay.
Which is one of the biggest problems with currencies in general, right? With countries, and that's what money's not really built on anything anymore. There's no backing to it. It's trust.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yes, it is. It's true. It's trust. So, okay, let's go back to a little bit of the fundamentals here. And when I say fundamentals, I mean, like I hear, okay, let me rephrase that. We live in a TikTok generation, right? So there's people dispensing advice everywhere. You hear people giving away advice on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, but more so TikTok. And I see so many of these videos these days where people are, self-professed self-professed crypto analysts and blockchain consultants and blockchain millionaires and stuff, and giving people advice. And a lot of them are like, I just launched my own blockchain, or I just created my own blockchain. How easy or difficult is it for one to create your own
build a blockchain?
To build a blockchain.
It's not that easy.
A lot of what you're seeing at the moment, though, with that on TikTok is forks from different coins, which is a bit simpler to do.
Yeah,
you're building currencies.
It's open source.
So you're just creating tokens.
Theoretically, create to create an original blockchain system, like directed acrylic graphing or something like that. There's a lot of stuff that's created now is just a copy of something else. That's slightly modified, which is what a fork is. Because everybody has access. It's open source, right? Everybody has access to this, but to create an original system that essentially you want it to function better than previous systems, or depending on what you want it to be used for. Like, so if you're using it to track product, like say you want to be able to prove that this carrot came from this place at this point in time, there's certain blockchains that are actually in place being developed by like Microsoft and major companies that have a lot of people working on these things. But provenance is going to play one of the biggest parts behind blockchain technology, I think. Like there's still a long way to go. This is still just the beginning. But because the way that Bitcoin itself is just such a basic system, but it's so perfect in itself as well. There are issues with block sizes and transaction rate, but that's why we have the Lightning Network. It's just not adopted by. It's adoption. Adoption is it's growing. So, and you've seen what's happened within the last just year, right? And obviously, there's a lot of factors that have been in play with people with more eyes being put on blockchains and cryptocurrencies in general. There are very smart people that have been so-called shilling things. Right. But I don't necessarily condone that. But at the same time, when you have hyper geniuses like Elon Musk, who has done everything possible within like, I can't even explain how many, like the Boring Company, he's launching satellites into space to provide internet to the entire world, and he's going to Mars and everything. Like you can't, right? Like you still got to take it with a grain of salt, but there are reasons. Like he's PayPal, right? Like he is one of the first internet money creators, or he pushed it, he made it what it is today. And that's, I think that's why we see what he's doing to this extent, because he knows there's only certain ways, especially like you said, the TikTok world we're in and all this, to be able to build that trust within the world that we live in right now. It's a very difficult thing to do because there's so much misinformation. That's blockchain and code. That was Ethereum's main thing, was code is law, right? But you can't necessarily say code is law. That's why there was Ethereum Classic, and then they went to Ethereum, right? Because there has to be slight adjustments. You can't just say this is it. Like, I didn't pay my bill, and now you get there. You have to be able to have those extenuating circumstances. You have to be able to help with that, right? Like, you can't just kick somebody out of their apartment, lock their door. It's just that's not how humans work. So there had to be a different system in place, and that's why that you have your Ethereum Classic and now Ethereum. For some reason, Ethereum Classic is still pumping, and I don't know why.
Market cycles. Market cycles.
Like, people see Ethereum Classic like, that's a cheaper version. You need to get this.
With forks, obviously, when that occurred with Ethereum Classic, it's the way a fork occurs is that you have a difference of opinion between large groups of your miners, in effect. So you've got one group of people that are miners that want to take the project in one direction, and another group that want to go in another. And then it gets to a certain block number, and it separates off and creates two chains from that point. Which
and you can still use both networks, but
yeah.
It's so, like, say Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. It's a fork. They expanded the size of the block so that you can fit more transactions into it. Right. So that's another iteration of a fork.
Okay.
So
is because essentially they, to a certain extent, they have a similar DNA. Would you say that?
yeah. Yeah, it's like CRISPR, right? Like,
Right.
you're just copy and pasting a little bit of new code in there.
That's pretty much what it is. It's the same entity up to a certain point, and then it moves off in separate directions.
So is that
kind of the easiest way
it's
to.
got a similar DNA? Would that also explain why, for instance, Bitcoin Cash or whatever they have, they're not as valued as Bitcoin, but they're pretty much up there.
It's like, that's like what I say. Like, it's tribal. It's at its very core. It comes down to the miners and the nodes operating the system. And that's the beautiful thing about blockchain is some person can't just come in and be like, this is how it is. It's decentralized.
It's up to the people as a consensus. Consensus is the key word in blockchain, really.
It's beautiful. That's what beautiful is. That's why I love blockchain so much, because like just the way that the world operates is it needs blockchain technology. Blockchain doesn't need the world needs blockchain.
Okay, so we're going to take a very quick break there because I'm going to expand on that because we're getting a couple of questions, and my mistake, I forgot to mention that we're going to take questions in the end. But just so that we don't want to, we want to take a couple of questions now, so we don't have too many questions in the end. So I'm gonna quickly take a peek at some of the questions and see if we can answer them. Hang on a second.
Getting some feedback. And I'm the Lone Ranger now.
All right, so we have Daryl, and he says, how would you advise novices if they were to explore blockchain as a career option?
As a career option. So it depends. Do you have any knowledge of JavaScript or any type of coding knowledge?
Nope. He says nope.
No. So my first, that's
Unfortunately.
what I've been doing. So my first step was learning JavaScript. And it's learning JavaScript just gives you it's a different language. It's like me trying to learn German, except JavaScript's way easier. It's learning a different language. It's knowing how the internet operates, and then from JavaScript, I would move on to say Solidity, because Solidity is how you create your smart contracts within the Ethereum network. You can create decentralized applications, and that's your good start. That's your good base. Would be either Python or Java, and then move to Solidity. Get your CSS. Just the base, honestly, the basic stuff that I wish I would have taken in school. But
this is advisable even if you want to get into the business side of things, right? Like
100%, 100%.
It helps to know the fundamentals.
100%. So what I did, I to kind of put that motivation behind me. I'm not putting out any shills or anything, but I joined Ivan on Tech Academy because of how it's organized and the way that they have all their courses set out. They give you homework, everything, and it's all about coding. It's all about coding. It's all about, and they teach you how to build your CV to actually get hired within a blockchain company or consulting firms, anything like that. It's just designed very well. I'm sure there's more out there. That's just how I got into it. I don't know. And it's working, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I know everybody's like, I get the whole make sure you're in with gray hair, but I think he's got that gray hair in the background. It's just he's that young face, right? But the courses that are set out, just find what works for you. But I'd go into Java, Python. It would be a good starting. Would be a good base, just to understand the coding aspect, and then move on to Solidity and other options. Just to get your foot in the door, right?
All right. So next we have Ronnie. Ronnie is asking, can blockchain change stocks? I'm reading exactly how you put it. Can blockchain change stocks?
In what kind of respect? I mean, the blockchain market itself is more open than the stock market. You know, there's manipulation in it, as there is with kind of every market, but it's not necessarily by the same people. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week market, which is something that you don't get with stocks. It is. I see in the future, I can see stocks moving towards the blockchain. It's something you've already seen with a lot of exchanges and things at the moment. There's places like Bittrex. There's an exchange I use called FTX, and both of those have gone down the route of tokenizing stocks. So through those exchanges, you can buy, you can speculate, you can buy and sell these stocks for market value, but as a tokenized version, and for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That's one of the most exciting parts of crypto.
I don't think it will be the end of stocks, but I think it will change them, and I think stocks will become decentralized. I think it's
tokenized, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's the beginning of the end for brokerages and places like NYSE. Yeah, for people like that, and this is why there's such opposition with blockchain, because obviously the people who it's going to affect the most are the people that have got the most money at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
It's the biggest wealth transfer in history.
Yeah, sorry, the
And
people it's going to affect the most in a detrimental way.
we're
It's going
just
to affect the rest of
that.
us, but in a positive manner.
Interesting. Okay, so we'll just take one more question and we'll go back to our session.
No
The
problem.
last one is from Raji. Raji says the future is not blockchain; it's hash graph. Is this true?
Sorry,
The future's a mystery.
what was the question? I didn't hear it. Sorry, I'm getting feedback.
The future is not blockchain; it's hash graph. Is this true?
That's speculation, essentially. It's a good show. I like it.
Good effort.
Hey,
Without a time machine, it's difficult to tell what the future's going to be. But popularity-wise and the way things are shaping up, I think you can make an educated decision. I mean, we're not doing a talk today about hash graph. You know, the hash graph.
What we should be talking about is DYOR.
Yeah. Hashgraph doesn't have a $2.5 million market cap at the moment. $2.5 trillion, dollar market cap at the moment. So yeah, it is all. And I mean, don't get me wrong. 10 years ago, blockchain didn't have a $2.5 trillion market cap. So as I say, tomorrow's a mystery.
But an exciting mystery.
An exciting.
Yeah, those are the best. Those are the best, exciting ones, right? So, I want to look at slightly. I want to touch on the so-called negative side of blockchain. I say so-called because again, I need to get a better understanding of the whole space, right? So, which I promise I will do after this. Thanks, guys. But here's the thing. So there's been some talk about, and I know Mark and I have discussed this earlier a couple of weeks ago about the hackability of the blockchain itself, and then other aspects. Again, I'm touching on two negative issues there. One, hackability, whether it is hackable, how hackable. Because at the end of the day, everything is hackable. It's just a matter of how much effort the hackers put into hacking something. That's number one. And number two, what about the, for instance, when you're talking about mining currency and stuff, there's all this, this ethical talk about, green energy, and it's taking a lot of energy to mine Bitcoin and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts on that? How would you address that?
All right. Well, I would love to address that.
Yeah, you go, Jesse.
So, the hackability aspect of it, like I was saying before, the cryptography, never say it, cryptography of the system is what keeps it as safe as it is, right? The right now, with the potential behind computing, the biggest hackability feature behind it is yourself. Is how you store your private keys. Is how you store your key phrases, right? To be able to gain access to your wallet. Don't keep any of your private information on the computer. That's like when you log into your online banking, right? Most people have that stored on their computer.
This is it. All hacking stories with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies at the moment come from that element. They're all stories of people's passwords being hacked, people's, coming down that route. The actual blockchain itself, as Jesse was saying before, the way it's kind of mined, you have the three kind of pieces of information to each block. Is the data that's on there. So using, say, Bitcoin, for example, it would be the transaction details. So I sent Jesse 1 Bitcoin, this time, date, so on and so forth. And the other 2 bits of information on the block are the hash number of the current block and the hash number of the previous block, which contains, as we said earlier, a summary of what was on that block. So to hack the blockchain, it doesn't require hacking one block. It requires going back in and changing every block previous to that as well.
You need like a 51% attack on the entire network, which is it's
quantum computing.
I don't even know how that would happen. Yeah, at the time that we're in right now, 15, 20 years from now, there's potential behind it, but there's also systems that are being put in place to protect not just Bitcoin, or not just Bitcoin's blockchain or other blockchains from quantum attacks. So like we are developing things to protect ourselves in the future. Kind of like how you develop, you take viruses and then you develop vaccines for it, or you create a vaccine and then you figure out how, right? Like it's, there are steps being put into place to provide safety for this system for a very long time, because a lot of very, very smart people believe in this, and that's why it is where it is today, and that's why all these blockchains are being developed for different systems, different use cases, right? And then if you go into, so yeah, that's your hackability feature. There's cold wallets. There's so many different things that are being developed so that you can stay as safe as possible. And like in a sense, it's already safer than the banking system itself. It's like way safer.
Right.
Way safer.
I mean that's why it's called cryptocurrency, right? Because it's
cryptographically. That's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it gets me excited every day I wake up.
That's what I call it. Somebody who's really, really passionate about blockchain and everything else.
So we can go into the energy consumption of, so a little known fact, 39% of mining to this day is actually using renewable energy. A lot of people don't know that. And when you have all of this propaganda put out towards, that's coming from these companies who are afraid of what these systems are going to take away from them, right?
These people who we mentioned before as being the ones who detrimentally are affected by
that have your data
they actually have a vested interest in a blockchain failing.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the CO2 emissions for mining compared to, well, as part of the CO2 emissions of the world, it takes up less than 1% of it. So the same people are crying CO2 emissions about Bitcoin are the same people that are taking 5 flights a month.
Using TikTok, using Google every single day. You know how much energy TikTok and Google and Amazon and everything uses? And then you can even go into the parts of how miners actually are mostly in countries using unused energy that's still being produced. So when you are in a developing country and say you have an energy plant that creates 50 gigawatts, and the community or the city is only using 30 gigawatts, that you have miners that are going into these places and actually buying that unused energy, which is actually helping those countries pay for that plant 5 times faster than it would have taken. So like you're arguing against a green coin. It's like I love the idea behind people trying to argue it, because I'll argue it every day. And there's numbers speak stories, right? And math doesn't lie.
Yeah, numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie, absolutely.
And you know what? It is so to the argument of, yes, it does take a lot of energy, but 88% of Bitcoin is already mined, right?
Right.
So every 4 years, the coins that are allotted for the miners is halved, right? So eventually it's going to plateau. It may be going up right now. Eventually it's going to plateau, and you're going to be at that point where not a lot of people are going to be mining. There will still be incentives for people to mine, but it's industrial, right? Like it just doesn't make sense to even say that that Bitcoin's destroying the planet or whatever, right? Like it's just a silly argument that people are jumping on the bandwagon of, because they don't understand how mining works, how much it's helping developing countries. It's actually, they're even using the burn-offs from oil plants and gas plants. They're using that energy that just gets dispersed into the atmosphere. They're cleaning it and using that to power mining facilities as well.
That's really cool. Even I wasn't really aware of that.
There's a lot that's going on. Like we love our planet, right? And when it comes down to it, we're trying to make it better, which is why this technology was developed in the first place. It's going to eliminate fraud. It's going to give us our power back to control our own data, not have these companies making billions and billions of dollars on our own information when we can actually harness that ourselves.
Okay, let's push on back to the chat live sessions. All right, so we got a couple of things. First of all, Jennifer, thanks.
Oh.
Yeah, she's put in some. Yeah, she's put in some tips on security. Thanks, Jennifer. Garima says, "What a fabulous point, Jesse." Raju says, honestly, I haven't been able to get an understanding of blockchain, and sadly, discussion is not helping. Okay, so since this is blockchain made simple, but we are unfortunately running short of time. So how about we do a very quick, maybe Mark can take this one because Jesse's had a go. Blockchain in 2 minutes or less.
Blockchain in 2 minutes or less. Well, that's something I could do with preparing for, really. Raju, what kind of element are you looking for the information on? What is it you're struggling to gain an understanding of? I mean, if you could put that in the chat, I can have a little answer. Basic and use of business. So
like we were actually so this is one of the things that we were actually going to look at. For instance, if either one of you guys could give me 3 examples of non-crypto uses of blockchain. Like for instance, if I were to say, how could you use blockchain in the supply chain industry? What would your answer be?
Storage of information, transfer of information, things like VeChain, a product that's out there at the moment, which kind of to simplify it, you can track every product you've ever bought back to its kind of the origin of its origin of creation, I suppose. There's one use. There's medical records and things like that are an industry that we feel like will be disrupted, changed drastically with how it's kind of run. As I say, smart contracts and things like that can kind of they can be utilised by any kind of business, any kind of industry. It's just finding the ways at the moment of kind of integrating things. You know, we started off with decentralized finance. We've moved over towards things like smart contracts, data transfers, and things like that. And now we're moving towards kind of NFTs. What's the word I'm looking for, Jesse? To get kind of the confirmation of all that data on the blockchain.
Yeah, the gaming industry will be completely revolutionized.
Artificial intelligence, a big part of that as well.
So Raju's apparently, so he's from the marketing industry. So he says, what kind of example would you give a marketer? How can a marketer use blockchain?
I suppose the marketer would use blockchain mainly for kind of the same reason you'd use any system as a marketer. It would be the data, the storage of data, the transfer, the information that's on there. You wouldn't, necessarily have a currency that would be of any use to you as a marketer. It's more what can be provided, the utility on the blockchain. What was that? Sorry, Barry?
So Raju says, will blockchain replace existing systems?
Yeah, we certainly think so. That's why we're in the industry that we're in, I suppose. It is, like Jesse said before, it's Web 3.0. It is the next iteration of so many different systems. I mean, it's not really something that you can go into in 2 minutes and do it any justice. Yeah. But it's the new iteration for so many systems, and so much of which is still kind of being discovered at the moment, at the present time.
Garima says data, marketers need data. Research, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Marketers love data, and that's it. Is the data, the information that's stored on the blockchain, as opposed to a practical use for a cryptocurrency, I suppose, within marketing.
Absolutely on point. So we're talking to Crypto India 2021. Are the products developed on the blockchain replaceable to multiple companies or customers from the? So Mark, can you see that one?
I can't really hear you, Barry. You're very muffled.
Yeah, can you? Sorry.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, sorry, that was my headset. So could you shimmy over to the chat? It's the last comment on the chat.
Yeah, I'm just on the chat here.
Yeah.
So, are the products developed on blockchain replicable to multiple companies or are customized from the application perspective? Can you cite an example of any product used by any company for its operations? Again, we go back to VeChain, the one that I pointed out earlier, that has a working product out there at the moment. There's an app on the App Store and Play Store you can download, and you can go out there and start scanning barcodes and looking at where your products have come from. That's one kind of use at the moment. There are companies that are using cryptocurrencies as payment, is obviously kind of the primary use across business at the moment. And as I say, the rest of it is developing. There's works in progress. There's an awful lot of, I suppose, ideas and things out there at the moment. There's an awful lot of companies that are going to do X, Y, and Z. But with a lot of it at the moment, we're still in its infancy. We're at a developing stage of blockchain, and we are seeing more things being developed, more ideas coming forward. I mean, a good practical use at the moment would be, so to talk about NFTs, I know a lot of people think of NFTs and they think art, because that's what's kind of been...
Yeah, first, sorry, Mark. First, let's give, I don't know, I'm assuming, we probably should assume that everybody knows what an NFT is. Maybe we'll just give them a basic definition of what exactly an NFT is.
Yeah, so it's a non-fungible token. It's a token that isn't a currency. It doesn't have the interchangeability. An NFT at the moment is, a lot of people are thinking of kind of art as being the primary. That's what it's made the news for. People are buying artistic NFTs for large quantities of money. Another thing NFTs are being used for at the moment is, so say football teams across Europe, you can currently buy fan tokens for certain football teams, quite a lot of different ones, Barcelona being one of the bigger ones that spring to mind. And what these NFTs provide is you with a voting right as part of that company. So these companies, or these football teams as companies, are currently utilising NFTs to be able to sell off parts of the company as kind of almost in a way of shares, and to give voting rights to people, to the fans surrounding certain decisions. But nobody's really come out and used it in that respect yet, but this is the principle, the premise that it's built on.
But in long term, would it be safe to say that you can make decisions based on like what players to buy and sell, for instance?
Say that again, sorry.
Would it also impact decisions like buying and selling players, or are these like lower level decisions? What kind of decisions are these?
Well, like you say, they've not really come out and confirmed that yet.
Right.
That's one thought I've always had with it. I would imagine it's more like, what colour should our third kit be next season?
Right. Okay. So it's more market research.
You'd think so, yeah. But like I say, it's not. There again, everything's in its infancy. We're moving forward with things. We're progressing, and it's just a case of seeing where things end up. There's not an awful lot of finished products in the blockchain sector at the moment, in my experience, Jesse.
Well, in regards to the NFTs, I actually have another example for Microsoft and their blockchain. I'll give you that after. But for NFTs, do you know who Gary Vee is? If you know who Gary Vee is, he
just released some NFTs yesterday, right, or the day before.
So it's one of the first use cases that actually has a significant amount of value behind it. So he'll be hosting each NFT that you're able to collect. They have unlockable features coded into them. So it's kind of like, so say, depending on which NFT you're able to get, they might have a one-on-one meeting with Gary Vee, unlockable, coded into the into the NFT, and then you can then trade that. It's then a collectible as well. Say he's holding conferences every year for 3 years. You then have access
You have
to those conferences just by collecting those NFTs. In the gaming industry, weapons, being able to rent out weapons in the gaming industry, property. You get there's networks, so like the Sand Network and Decentralized. You can actually purchase property there. If you think like 5 years in the future, when VR is a little more accessible, you'll be shopping in VR land essentially. And just owning an NFT, which is that property, you can then rent out that property, hold events on that property. There's so many things that you can do with this, because there's unlimited availability to code into these products, right? But I wanted to go into the Microsoft Azure. You had a question on which, like, just using the blockchains in general, right? So Microsoft's blockchain is called Azure, and so, for example, you have like GE, their aviation sector. They're using the blockchain to streamline tracking of like aircraft parts from the factory to flight. Starbucks is using it to empower smallhold farmers and track its products from bean to barista. It's tracking instantaneous payments. So a lot of companies will, it's initiating contracts instantly. Instead of having to wait 2 weeks for a payment, because it has to go through all these systems, right? It's instantaneous, and it would save so much. And being able to streamline your products, it eliminates waste in product as well. Like once you have that knowledge of what products are and are not, because a lot of even just restaurants throw out so much food every day. Grocery stores, so much food goes to waste in this world, and being able to track it accurately and get streamlined payments for that is there's just so much. And like Mark said, it's still in its baby stages. Like
we have a lot to look forward to.
You just need to remember how early you are in this, right? Like they don't even have courses in school for it yet.
Yeah, think AOL 1990.
There's books that are having to be written about it right now, ebooks probably, but like you're just so early, and you should pride yourself on even knowing anything about it.
Like you said, because we're at the cusp of this age where there's going to be a very big transfer of wealth and power and knowledge and what have you. So we need to brace ourselves for it. I have a question. So either one of you guys, Jesse, Mark, if you shimmy over to the chat again, there's Tarek who says, so behind the scenes, there's a war between centralized global finance systems and the crypto decentralized revolution, which is growing fast scale. Do you think that they will reach the agreement? Do you think they'll reach an agreement one day?
I hope not. Because that would undo the whole point of it all. That would be that would just be centralising a decentralised system again, and we're back to exactly the square that we're at now.
Yeah.
Another one was just reading through Tarek's comments here as well. It's hard to cash what you have in some countries, and I suppose it is. It's hard in some countries to cash your fiat money in. Like we said, going back to places like Zimbabwe earlier. Crypto not being used as way of like buying or renting, buying products, renting cars, things like that. I mean, it depends. I mean, a lot of places aren't openly accepting, as Tesla are at the moment.
40% of businesses in the United States itself accept a form of crypto.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it, like small companies and things like that, it's obviously down to people's discretion. A friend of mine through the last bull market bought a house in the UK with Bitcoin for market value. Obviously, it was not kind of advertised. He had to speak to the relevant people to get that to go through. But as we say, it's an evolving kind of process. It's in its infancy. I think thousands of years ago, people were paying for things in shells, and you'd have gone and give somebody a £10 note, and they'd have thought they'd have looked at like you had two heads and said you can't pay for a house for this. Or
what is this piece of paper?
exactly. Before that, they were trading cows for chickens, and it's progression. And it's difficult to see to look at progression and see where it's going to go from when you kind of actually trapped in kind of a way of thinking. When you're going back to the change that Jesse said before, people stick to what they understand, and I appreciate that. But it's an evolving sector. It's an exciting sector to be a part of, and it's changing the face of everything. It's not just people think of it and they think store of value Bitcoin, so they think of currency. But as I said before, it's changing the systems. It's changing how the world operates on a fundamental level, not just financial. DeFi and decentralized finance is the premise it was built on, but what it's becoming is something a lot more than that.
That is a big thing. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, the concept of fintech did not exist, right? And now you have entire industries running. There's a recruitment, for instance, recruiting industries specializing just in fintech, right? So I know a lot of recruiters that just do fintech recruiting because it's a really, really big business.
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
That's the sign of things to come, as far as, if you ask me. So we've covered some of the fundamentals, and we've covered some of the some of the points that we said we would. One of the things I wanted to touch base on, and this is hopefully the last question, and we know how it's becoming more and more mainstream, like with Tesla accepting Bitcoin. Obviously, this isn't like this is like the equivalent of you have pounds and dollars and yen and rupees and dinars and dirhams and what have you, but and this is kind of like the same thing, because now you're saying Tesla is accepting Bitcoin, but does it accept, I don't know, Link or Tron, or what is that entirely up to the company?
I mean, they would have the facility to, if they wanted to. They've not kind of marketed it, and advertised it. One thing worth noting with the way Tesla have approached this kind of operation as well, when you take cryptocurrency for as payment for a product or a service, you have two kind of options with it at the moment. Is you can either convert that back into your local fiat currency, right, or you can choose to hold the Bitcoin as it is.
Stable coins.
Absolutely, yeah, stable coins. But the route that Tesla have gone down with taking the payments is that they've created their own node, or they've created a node in the part of that network, and they're storing that Bitcoin now, which to me, with the prices that we're at, and the market is high. Or higher than it was a year ago. It's on its up at the moment. That says to me, if a man like Elon Musk is taking Bitcoin as a payment now and electing to hold that Bitcoin as Bitcoin and not convert it into fiat currency, that's a very good sign or a very big indicator of the way that things are going to move in future.
Okay, so another question here is from Raphael, and he says, is there a book you would recommend if you want to explore the blockchain technology? Would you recommend a book, maybe a course? Maybe you can plug in a little bit about what you guys do at BTA Protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the best place, really. My experience was, and I know things are starting to pop up now, but as we say, blockchain and everything's a very, very infantile sector. What I found myself with looking for books and things like that is that there's not a lot for a start off. There's things that started to pop up now, but a lot of it's missing bits of information, or you'll find things that are missing as you kind of go through, as you learn more about the industry yourself. What I would, Jennifer's dropped in the link there. So BTA Protocol that Jesse and I work for is the Blockchain Training Academy. So, we're coaches in the sector. I myself deal with trading and blockchain as a whole. Jesse's more of a blockchain cryptocurrency specialist. And we have a number of courses on there, which are a good place to get started. There's more being added for the time being.
Yeah, and it's a free course for those of you that are interested. So
there's a
17
free
modules,
course that's paid for courses, and there's also, we're working on coach guided courses at the moment as well, where you'll have somebody like myself, Jesse, and there's a number, maybe about 20 of us that are coaches as part of BTAP at the moment. Jennifer as well being one of those who's in the comments. Hi, Jennifer. We're there to help people through these courses and to provide, kind of fill those gaps in, as I say, the things that are missing from the books, or where there are no books at the moment. We aim to be the people that write them.
Please share details of these courses, starting with the basic one. Raju, yeah, Jennifer's just dropped the link. Raju, if you scroll up a little bit, Jennifer's dropped the link up top to the link where you can get those courses.
It should just take you to the page where it says free course.
Raphael said, okay, thank you very much. You're welcome, Raphael. All right, so we're going to be winding down, guys. Is there any other, we're going to take one or two questions if there are any. Do you guys have any more questions? I think we did a good job because there aren't any more questions.
Or everybody's asleep.
Or everybody, yeah, I know we lost a couple of people because, we went past the hour. So, but that's fine. Please share details, maybe a follow-up question on crypto. Sure, yeah, go ahead, Raj. So Raju's got a follow-up question.
Session, I think. Says
follow-up session on crypto.
Sorry, right. Yeah. Why not? Because this is one of the things that I was anticipating, because there's a lot of people, in the dark about, the basics, and then a lot of people who are in the middle stages. So yeah, maybe that we'll do a quick survey, and then we'll figure out if we need to do a session 2 or not. But yeah, if we got your emails. We'll let everybody know. So in closing, guys, where do you see blockchain going? I know none of us have a crystal ball, right? And but where would you say blockchain is going to go? Not specific. Again, I want to take it away from crypto, because everyone talks about blockchain in cryptocurrency and stuff. Where do you see it moving in general? Like, we're in 2021. Let's say in 2031, what do you see the future being like?
You won't even. This is like I said before. You won't even know it's there.
Like I said as well, it's think internet 1990. Everything was alien to people then, and now everything that you do is through the internet. We're doing this through the internet. You buy your groceries through the internet. You buy your clothes through the internet. There's nothing that it's not used as a part of. It's used within every business to transfer information. It's part of everything that you do. You watch TV through the internet. It's everywhere, and blockchain is, in the simplest way of putting it, the next iteration of the internet as far as the world's concerned.
It's funny you mentioned that. It's just going to be part and parcel of our lives, and this is really cool concept. Because one of my friends, Kasik, was in on this, but I guess he left on the hour. But we were part of the team way back in the early, I think, late '99, early 2000. So, Mark, can you mute yourself just for a minute? Yeah, brilliant. Thanks. So I remember we were doing this presentation on e-commerce and stuff, and when we told people that this is '99, 2000, we told people, hey, and this is after Amazon. And we said, we're preparing for, a system where people are going to be, taking their credit cards and paying for stuff online. And a lot of people are like, I don't think so. I don't think, it's going to work in certain countries, maybe in the developed world, but it's not going to work in, for instance, the Middle East or the Far East or whatever, because people are not really comfortable with, paying for stuff online. They don't even have the internet. And that
people were
in the
afraid
year
of gasoline-powered vehicles. They thought we were going to die going 15 kilometers an hour.
Exactly. And then, fast forward 21 years later, I think apart from, let's just leave blockchain aside, but the e-commerce business is booming, especially after the pandemic. So many new businesses, even brick and mortar stores have come online, and they're raking in the millions, online. And like, e-commerce and buying stuff online and consuming content online, like we do Netflix and Prime Video and stuff, all that is second nature. So I totally get what you're saying, guys. I know, some things just get hard coded into the system, and then they just become part of the system. You won't even notice that we're doing stuff, and that's
pretty much, yeah. Like, because I've been attending the Blockdown. Blockdown is all of the major use case blockchain systems. They have this thing called Blockdown that everybody attends. You kind of have. We should actually try to get on there because we'd be a great panel for that. But they have panels of all of the major, like Microsoft and everybody. They go on there. I think they do it like every 3 months or so. But I think Bizmodo would be great. The Next Generation series would be fantastic for that. I got to give a shout out to my to the Captain Token crew. Just because I said I would. And they've been giving me some really good support for this Next Generation series. I'm sure there's a few of them here. But yeah, like in the background, like, and for everybody who wants to learn, like I said, coding is key. Coding is key. Just learn Java, learn Python, get into Solidity. If you can learn how to create smart contracts on the Ethereum network, you'll go very far in this new and evolving, sometimes scary but super exciting world.
So very quickly before we wind down, so how hard or how easy is it to create a smart contract on Ethereum?
So there's a lot of libraries. So like with say like Java, there's libraries that are already set out that have kind of like preset coding. It's just learning the language is the hardest part. It's like if this then that, essentially. It's not easy.
It's like an elaborate spreadsheet.
It's easy if you just copy and paste, but if you want to create an original product, there's a little bit more work. Because like I said, everything's open source, right? So a lot of people look at Dogecoin, look at Shiba Inu, right? Like they're copy and paste products.
Right.
But it's the hype behind it and the community that creates.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, this is the hype behind it. So I was gonna say in exactly 1 second or 1 word or 2 words, what are your thoughts on Dogecoin?
I wish I would have bought $1,000 of it in January, because then I'd have 230 grand right now. But
he said 1 word, Jesse. What I would say on Dogecoin is Elon Musk was the biggest advocate for it,
right.
Yet he chose to accept Bitcoin.
Let it power Mars.
It didn't.
Yeah, I mean it's funny how this whole thing was led just by a bunch of tweets. Because every time I was looking at these graphs for the last couple of weeks, every time he tweeted, the same day or the next day, Dogecoin would go up, and now I'm hearing legit stories of people that have made like millions.
Yeah. The last market cycle, it was the same thing, but with John McAfee, he was the advocate. Right. He was the popular guy who was throwing tweets about on Facebook, on Twitter.
Right.
It's just to help grow adoption. They're using their so 1 word. I got 1 word. I got 1 word. Ready? Bitcoin.
Okay.
Bitcoin.
Not okay. So I know you guys are big Bitcoin guys, but again, quickly, what are your thoughts on Ethereum? Because I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people. Okay, but then why wouldn't is it because it is completely open source that you talk about security issues and things like that when it comes to Ethereum being accepted by Tesla, for instance?
I think Ethereum will also be accepted. I think Ethereum itself is the network, right? ETH is right. Ethereum is going to play a massive role in the gaming industry. Like, I can't even explain to you how big it's going to get.
Ethereum's end goal is to build a supercomputer.
If they want to be,
Bitcoin's end goal is a currency. You have to separate the currency element from the blockchain element. Every blockchain has a currency. Most of them currencies weren't meant to be a means of transfer between, say, you and myself. They're meant to be a currency to operate on, to pay fees on a particular system.
Ethereum is just showing you the value behind data, right? It puts it into the most basic understand. Ethereum's it's gonna be like they need to work on their networks. It's super expensive. Like you gotta have a Lambo to even use Uniswap. So I don't even. It's expensive right now, but they're working very hard to. I think they have like the London upgrade coming. Is it the London upgrade?
Ethereum was that? Sorry, I was reading the comments.
Sorry, guys, I was taking a look at these comments. Some of them again.
You got to give a shout out to Vitalik, right? Like Canadian Russians. Nothing wrong with that.
Old guy matrix. Kudos, I see. Okay, so okay. I think we're set. So we're not no more questions. I think we're just about ready to wind down. We went a bit over time, but it was still a really cool, interesting conversation. But I hope everyone that was here.
We're gonna get more
Sorry, my
headphones for the next one.
Yeah, no, we're probably not.
yeah. No, but thanks very much, guys, for making it. It was. I mean, I learned so much, and I'm definitely going to sign up to one of those courses. I actually signed up to. Okay, I shouldn't say this, but I signed up to another course. But I will sign up to your course now. I haven't finished that one. It's clearly evident that I have finished that one, but
The coach guided one is really good, Barry.
I'll keep that in mind. So yeah, so I'm going to so, so, so I'm going to sign up to that course. And you guys, any of you guys that want to know more about Bitcoin or blockchain in general, cryptocurrency investing, whatever, sign up to the course. It's free, 17 modules. And then if you need any additional information, you got these wonderful guys, Jesse, Mark, and Jennifer from the comments. Thanks very much to BTA Protocol. Thanks very much to, well, I want to thank myself, Bizmodo, Nexgen Digital, BI Executive Search, and thanks very much for being a part of this event, session 4. This looks like it's going to be one of those sessions that will kind of fork into another session.
That was good.
See what I see? See what I see?
I like it. You're learning. You're learning.
I am. Yeah, I'm a quick learner. And yeah, if it does happen, we will keep everybody that signed up to this one. We'll keep them informed, and we'll let them know once that next session is planned out for. But hopefully, because you've come to this one, maybe that one is going to be a little bit more, more for intermediate, knowledge seekers or whatever you want to call them. So once again, thanks very much, attendees. Thanks very much for making it. It was a pleasure having you here. Jesse, Mark, thanks very much. It was really interesting, exciting. It was fun. I know I said that in the promo video, but it was genuinely fun having you guys. Like I said, I love it when it's just a discussion. It's not really like a Q&A session. You're not on CNN or BBC. It's just a bunch of guys chilling out. But in the end, we hope that the attendees got as much information as they could. And thanks very much, guys. So we're gonna end the session here, but you can, if you want, you can still mill about in the lounge area. But I'm gonna end this session for now. So thanks, guys. I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.